I dropped my meatball in the pool.
Yes, it is me here in the mental institution right here. They let me do my show right now. Oh, God, I hate this fucking place. Jesus, I really don't want to be doing this show here. How we doing, guys? Are we doing good? I'm doing good. Anyway, got a new intro, got some new music. Gonna work on that a little bit. Guy was nice enough to work on that song for me. I figure definitely sounds a lot better. But anyway, guys, what we got going on tonight? So good. Let's see. Let's just start by me saying good evening. Welcome aboard, guys. Some of you have been here before, some of you haven't, but we are here and we are ready to show a really, really cool movie that we did. Actually, is not even that old. I think the last time I did something like this was I showed the first Strangers movie, or at least that first one of the trilogy one, which I actually enjoyed those. But tonight we're going to travel beyond the mystical realm of Eternia and stepping into one of the most legendary fantasy universes ever created, especially for us who had the toys and all that. Thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate it. So I remember when I was a kid, I had all the toys. I mean, they're buried somewhere, but I remember had them all. Had the Castle Grayskull, had Snake Mountain, had all that. I think I might start collecting those again. The old school ones, not the new ones. So basically, it's like for generations since the 1983, I believe, Masters of the Universe inspired fans with toys, comics, animation, and mostly film. They had a film that came out in '87, which I actually enjoyed. Got heroes, villains, magic, technology, and the eternal battle between good and evil. It made this franchise an icon for more than 40 years. Now a new generation has arrived. Now we had a piece of shit fucking animation that was really, really bad, but it was more or less in the woke crowd. A He-Man show with no He-Man, and it made Tila, who a lot of people made her the grandiose top tier person, and it was just really bad. I didn't like it at all. But tonight we're going to take a deep dive into Masters of the Universe 2026. As always, right here, every film pretty much stands on its own. We're not here to compare it to the animated series because there's just no comparison. It really isn't. Or the 87 film, and we're definitely not here to judge it based on nostalgia alone. Okay? Tonight we're asking one simple question. Does this film succeed as a modern fantasy adventure? I'll examine the story, the performances, the visual effects, the world building, the action, the music, and everything that makes or breaks a Masters of the Universe movie. Then you're talking to a guy who basically was hardcore He-Man fan back in the day. So this one is definitely going to be judged up and down. Basically at the end of the show, I'll reveal my official Fearless score. Now, those of you that have been here, a bunch of times, you know about that Fearless score. Okay. And the Fearless score is something that I do after the movie now. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's begin. Basically, you're talking about a few franchises carry the weight of Masters of the Universe. Basically, it was born during the big toy boom of the early 80s. It quickly became much more than an action figure line. It became a world where swords and sorcery clashed with technology, where ancient castles stood beside futuristic cities, and where one young prince carried the responsibility of becoming the greatest champion Eternia had ever known. For decades, fans, had wondered what a modern Masters of the Universe film could truly look like. Could Hollywood finally capture the epic scale of Eternia? Didn't really give them too much credit for that. But could it balance the mythology with the action? Could it introduce these legendary characters in an entirely new audience while still respecting the fans who have loved them for generations? Those expectations are enormous. But tonight, we'll find out whether this movie rises up to meet them or falls short and lays down deep with the rest of the bodies. So let's do it, okay, guys? I'm going to stop this right here. So basically watch the movie, stay tuned after, because I am going to be putting this baby in one way or another, and we're going to have a blast. Okay, let me see if I can put this here. I love how, things don't goddamn, goddamn while it was here. There we go. Gotta say, not bad at all. All right. What exactly do we got in order we think about Masters of the Universe? What do we got? What do we think about that? Well, I tell you what, we got to think about it. Let's think about this, okay? A lot of us, think we remember our childhood, remember the toys, remember the cartoons, remember the movies, remember everything that we could. Okay? What is good about this movie? Okay? What is good about it? Well, every great fantasy story has one thing in common. It has to convince you that its world exists basically before the battles, before the heroes, before the villains. The audience has to believe in the universe they're entering. That's the first challenge facing Masters of the Universe. This is simply another superhero movie. Is it because we live in a world of that fucking shit? Is it a fantasy epic, a place where castles stand beside advanced technology, where ancient magic, still shapes, the future, and where legends are treated, history instead of myth? The film wastes very little time, introducing us to a central conflict. Right away, we understand that Eternia is a world living in under constant threat. The balance of power is fragile, hope is fading, and the responsibility of protecting that hope falls upon one individual who may not yet be ready to carry it. I like that. That's called what they call the hero's journey, that has something special about them, but doesn't, but in the end, they kind of find it, but they don't believe they are better than everybody else, even though they have that special gift, even though, and then they don't keep mentioning, oh, they held me back, they did this, and that. That's bullshit too. That's the one thing I appreciated immediately is that the movie doesn't spend an excessive amount of time explaining every fucking piece of lore. Instead, it allows the audience to discover the world naturally through the characters. That's a difficult balancing act. You can't really do it. Travis Knight's good at that. He did good at Bumblebee. I didn't like it too much, but Travis Knight appreciates that era because he's from that era. That's a difficult balancing act. Like I said, give us too much exposition and the pacing suffers. Give us too little and newcomers, become lost. For the most part, I think the filmmakers strike a respectable balance. Visually, the opening immediately establishes the scale the fans have been waiting for. The environments feel expansive. The production design feels, lived in. And the cinematography gives Eternia this sense of, grandeur, that many previous adaptations struggled to achieve. Of course, a beautiful world is only half the equation. The real question becomes, do we care about the people living in it? That's where basically we're going to head next, as I explain this. Basically one of the great strengths of the movie is the characters, larger than life, the heroes that inspire. You had all these great heroes, villains you love to hate, all wrapped up in one imaginative fantasy world that we all believe, basically believe in. And it's one of the best that's ever created. Prince Adam is more than just a future hero. He's a young man. He carries, a destiny far greater than himself. That journey toward becoming He-Man feels earned. Teela proves herself as more than simply a supporting character. She's a leader. She's a fighter, a warrior, and someone whose loyalty is tested throughout the story. It doesn't constantly mention that she's a woman in a man's world, which we've had to deal with a lot of these fucking movies that just go in and about and around explaining this feminism garbage that just people check out of all sexes and races. That we're like, you know what? We're done with that. We want to see shit blow up, or we want to see something cool, And then, of course, there is one of the greatest villains of all time, Skeletor. A villain as legendary as Skeletor, it has presence. The film understands that every time he appears, the stakes immediately rise. While a few supporting characters could have, benefit from additional screen time, the cast as a whole respects the mythology and gives these legendary characters the treatment they deserve. Okay, chapter 3, is what I call this, is basically the world. Okay, that's what I call this. We went from 2 chapters. Third chapter is the world. Fantasy lives or dies by believability. Eternia feels ancient, powerful, and alive. They did a great job with the production. Castle Grayskull is presented with the mystery and, overall presence fans have always imagined. The visual effects support the story rather than overwhelm it. And most importantly, the world feels worth saving. There's all kinds of stories they could have told, but instead, it's worth saving. And that's one of the great things I love about the story. So that's exactly what Eternia should be. Okay. Now we got the action, the pacing, and all of that. Adventure is what is all about this. The action sequences aren't loud. They have their own story, the courage to sacrifice by all the heroes, the determination, and Travis Knight's direction approaches the material, with very steady confidence. He never apologizes. He embraces it. The stakes feel earned, the adventure feels epic, and the payoff is satisfying. That is a mouthful. Now, here we go with the fearless score, guys. The story successfully introduces a massive fantasy universe while remaining emotionally engaging. The mythology is accessible for newcomers while rewarding longtime fans, and that's why I give it an earned fearless score of 9 out of 10. The characters, the heroes are inspiring, the villains are threatening, and the supporting cast gives Eternia life. That's why it gets a 9 out of 10. Performances, we're looking at the cast is fully commits to the mythology. They treat the characters with sincerity and respect. 9.5 out of 10. Direction, Travis Knight confidently embraces the fantasy, delivering a film that honors the franchise while feeling cinematic and modern. 9 out of 10. Visual presence. Eternia finally feels like a living, breathing world. The production was very good about the epic fantasy. They used the CGI as a tool. I really like the fact that they used it as a tool. Okay. So that overall, with that, earned a 9 out of 10. The music and sound design, the orchestral score. You ever notice that the old cartoon beats are in there? If you notice, especially at the end. He-Man. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. 9 out of 10, basically. Environment is very, very good when it bounces right off the music. The music lives or dies, breaks a movie. So that's what that is. Entertainment value, from beginning to end, the film delivers exciting action, memorable characters, and a genuine sense of adventure. 9 out of 10. Rewatchability, I think me and my wife are going to watch this movie again when I come home. And it's got that rewatchability, 9 out of 10. So the overall impact of it honors, like I said, it honors its legacy while introducing this world to a new generation. When the credits roll, you want to return. The She-Ra element, I really like that. That's going to be great. I hope when they redo it, not redo it, but when they move forward, it's going to look really, really great. So we got a scorecard: story 9, characters 9, performance 9.5, direction 9.5, visual 9, music, sound design 9, entertainment value 9, rewatchability 9, overall impact 9, total 82 out of 90. Okay, that's what we got. Okay, official fearless score is 9.1 out of 10. Beautiful. For a movie that just came out, that's a hell of a score. Okay, so after weighing every category, story, characters, performances, direction, and overall impact, rewatchability, entertainment, music, and sound design, like I said, the score is officially 9.1 out of 10. After giving all of that, okay, that's a great score. And this is a film, like I said, that embraces everything, that made it and honored it. Respect, love, and adventure. And it reminds us that heroes never go out of style. This MCU fucking bullshit crap. We all loved comics, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's bullshit now. Okay? It's all about the payment. Heroes don't go out with a bang. They all, the actors, they lie and say, oh, it's over and done with, until moolah runs out and they're given more money to come back and bore us to death. So I think that should have been the way it is, but they don't really care. Once that, they're used to money, and once that money runs out, they got to come back. So I really hope this doesn't, certain things don't, work with this. Okay. It's, like I said, whether, and it reminds us that, heroes never go out of style, like I said, and whether your score is higher, lower, or exactly the same as mine, I love to hear it. So you let me know about it. But at the same time, my score matters, okay? So that's where I'm going to leave you. I am the man in the credits. I am the man on the screen. And I'm the man, well, I can't smoke in here, but that's just how it is. I am Charles Sherrod Jr. And remember, guys, the air belongs to the fearless. I'm the fearless one. Good night.
The Dive with Charles Sherrod Jr. Live every Thursday at 7 p.m. on Rumble. The air belongs to the fearless.